Hello and welcome. I am Fintan Hand and I am addicted to Villa. I am going to break down how Aston Villa managed to beat Brighton and the tactical tweaks that Unai Emery has already been putting into practice, having only got to Aston Villa a couple of weeks ago. This Brighton side is obviously much fancied. They were sitting just outside of the top six when Aston Villa played against them. They set up in their usual system, which is the 4-2-3-1. Trossard's been incredible this season. McAllister's been incredible going to the World Cup instead of Emery. They have got a very exciting side. Aston Villa, on the other hand, are setting up in a reasonably new system. John McGinn out on the right wing is a little bit odd. I feel with Leon Bailey and Ollie Watkins falling sick the night before, it did take two of the players who are most likely going to start every game under Emery out of the equation. So I was quite interested to see how we were going to do. This was a big test. This Brighton side had only won 2 of their first 7 under the Debris, but they had also then beat Wolves and Chelsea in back-to-back. They absolutely trashed Chelsea. So embarrassing for Graham Potter. But the very beginning of the game, what happens? The ball is just played back to Emi Martinez and he has a little bit of time, but he just takes slightly too long. And it allows Adam Lallana, who we've got the little circle on down here, to close some of the passing lines, which means that the pass to Luca Dean and the pass to Tyrone Mings, they're no longer on, which makes it a little bit more complicated. McAllister, when he sees Lallana closing down the channels the way he did, has the trigger and he instantly is in on Dougie Luiz. So the ball gets played in. I think it is ever so slightly unlucky that it's not a foul, but once it's not given by VAR, it's not clear and obvious, and I can understand why the ref didn't blow it up. But, you know, the game seems to be allowing some more of these fouls to go. But we're like 40, 50 seconds into the game here. McAllister pinches it very well, and then boom, 1-0. An absolute horror start. In years gone by, when we let in the first goal, we were in all sorts of trouble. I think Aston Villa Stato said it'd been almost 2 years since we had a comeback win. We are a team that seemed to do well when we were on the front foot, but we just did not do very well if we had any sort of pressure on us. And we are going to have more issues like this. These are the teething issues that Aston Villa are going to have from playing out from the back. Unai Emery wants us to play from the back, build from the back, and start most of our attacks from the back. The number of long balls that we played in our last couple of games has fallen off a cliff compared to Stevie G ball. So the worst start we could ever have. But as you can see here, this is the momentum chart. Aston Villa are the green, Aston Villa are the blue, Brighton are the green. As you can see, it kind of swayed around the 10-minute mark. We started to come back into the game. The buzz of scoring the first goal, the exceptional start, wore off. Aston Villa came back into the game and sort of managed to get their senses, and they start passing it around a little bit. This was the first attack where we saw us really creating a good chance where we could have scored. For me personally, Jacob Ramsey is up there with the very best ball carriers in the Premier League. He is an exceptional finisher, and I think now that we have an elite coach in there, the player who has the highest ceiling out of anyone, out of Bailey, out of Emmy, out of Watkins, is JJ. If he is coached well, I feel like he has the ability to go on and be another £100 million academy player, just like Jack Grealish was. But he picked it up here. He played a beautiful pass into Danny Ings. If he adds these passes, Emi Bundea's style, he truly could end up being world class. I know it gets thrown around way too often, but this was a beautiful ball. Danny Ings, unfortunately, could not pick out John McGinn in the middle, and the attack broke down. We talked about the negatives of playing out from the back. We obviously conceded a goal in the first minute, the worst start to a game that you could ever have. But this is when it goes right. Tyrone Mings picks up the ball and plays, you would say, like, I think I could make that pass. He plays the ball into Kamara. Kamara manages to take 3 players out of the game. He takes it on the half turn, takes a couple of touches, and then treads a beautiful ball into Emi Bundeya, who is in acres of space. Look at the 4 players around Kamara. Boom, boom, boom. Takes it on the swivel, plays this ball in, and we have a player who can link the defense and the midfield into the attack that we have been begging out for. Kamara comes in for Den Donker this game. I thought it was quite harsh on him, but he looked so good. The fact that we got him on a free feels like the robbery of the century. And this is exactly where you want Emi to have the ball, right? Emi's got space to drive into. Emi has the ability to pick a pass. And that's what Emi does. He carries the ball 20, 25 yards, and then he treads a ball in where John McGinn does very well to win a penalty. Some Brighton fans calling it a dive. I'm not sure how many penalties Lewis Dunk has given away this season, but that betting scandal that's just come out against Ivan Toney, let's make sure Dunk isn't betting on himself to give away penalties. I think he's given away 3 or 4 already this season. I'm not really accusing him of that before anyone says. But anyway, that was the end for the first half. It was quite even. We had our moments after a hard start. Brighton didn't really create a whole lot. They had a lot of corners. I think they had 8 corners in the first half. Not a huge amount in it, but we started off the second half and it was pretty scrappy. There wasn't a whole lot going on, but again, there was a little bit of quality here. Nothing out of this world, but Matty Cash, who, in my opinion, who has been pretty quiet this season, obviously he had an injury at one point, has come back, looked quite dangerous in this game compared to in recent weeks. Picked up the ball, played a little 1-2 with Kamara, dinked around the outside. And here is where Matty Cash breaks my heart. When I look at Matty Cash in his training videos, he looks like a young David Beckham whipping the ball in. The technique looks like it's there. But then every time he gets into a crossing position in an actual game, he's just a deer in the headlights. He barely ever puts it on a plate. I remember the beautiful cross to Cameron Archer when he scored that header against Chelsea. I'm like, why can't you do that every week? But he picks out a decent little ball, and Emi Bunde, the smallest man on the pitch, has this mystical heading power that I cannot explain, nearly scores what would have only been his second Premier League goal of the season. He was in and out of the side because of Stevie G. He didn't get played as much as he should have. Let's be honest, every Villa fan was calling for him to be played more. I would have loved for him to score here, but unfortunately, it comes crashing out off the post. But luckily for us, the attack did not die. And what seems a remarkable turn of events, Dougie Luiz with the redemption story. He sniffs out an opportunity, and of all the people to be tackling, it is McAllister who scored the goal in the first half. Dougie gets a foot in, wins the ball fairly, and the ball breaks to Danny Ings, who shows that little bit of composure. Danny Ings is a top-class finisher, in my opinion. You don't lose that. In the Stevie G team, we scored 7 goals in 9 games. Nobody was creating chances. If Danny is given chances, he is going to score goals. He chops back inside here, takes a shot, takes a little defection, and he makes it 2-1 to Aston Villa, which is massive. We were 1-0 down against a team in the top 8, a team that are absolutely flying, a team that all the fans want us to be more like, and all of a sudden, we are now 2-1 up. This is exactly what we are going to see from Unai Emery, though. This is where he is going to frustrate some fans, but he's going to earn his money. Brighton barely had a sniff. We looked very, very good. There was some shithousing going on. Some of the shithousing from Martinez, I personally wasn't a fan of. But we are seeing out games, and at the end of the day, that is what is important. Brighton created almost 0 XG until they had the double chance with the header in the 87th minute. They were nullified. They were passing the ball around at the back, and Emery was like, do you know what? Have the sterile possession. I don't care. Brighton were making, on average, 16 passes at a time before we bothered trying to press them. It did get a little bit scrappy. It did lead to a lot of bookings. I believe at the end of the game, we had 6 players behind the ball. We were playing in a kind of 6-2-2 system, which was it the prettiest thing in the world? No, but we are playing at Brighton and we are seeing out a very, very important win. We did pick up a lot of bookings. We managed to have, I think it was 7 bookings, which according to Aston Villa Stato was a Premier League high. It's nothing to be proud of, but we needed to do what we needed to do. We managed to come back against a team that are flying, that are doing very well. We are unbeaten in the Amex Stadium. I actually predicted on Twitter before the game that we would win 2-1, but this victory meant that we have now had 3 wins in 4 games. We have beaten Manchester United at home. We have beaten Brighton away from home in 2 games under Emery. And now, when we go back to Villa Park on the 26th of December, We're looking to win 3 games in a row under a new manager for the first time ever. It's going to be an exciting time. Emery's going to fancy it. Liverpool are going to have lots of players at the World Cup. Maybe, I'm not wishing for anyone to be injured, but you don't know what's going to happen. Sorry, that's just how the game looked towards the end. As you can see, Brighton had all the momentum, but they didn't really create a lot. This is the second half stats. They had 72% possession, but they had 5 total shots. They had 1 shot on target. Had a couple of corners. We had 6 yellow cards versus 2. That is just the second half stats. It wasn't pretty, but we got it done. My final thoughts on the game. If you look at this is from the 6th minute and we are 1-0 down. We are playing a 4-4-2 Mike Bassett, England manager, with it the width of the penalty area. We are not very wide, which is something that under Stevie G we criticised a lot. Now, Leon Bailey was injured. On top of that, there's no wingers in the squad because of Stevie G. I would imagine that Emery will look to address that in the January transfer window and bring in at least 1 more winger. But this is not going to change how we set up all the time. Squeezing space in the midfield. Look how tight it is in here. It's just a characteristic of an Emery team and part of the reason that the teams are so well conditioned in Europe. When the games are tight, they are going to be so tough to break down and beat. As we see more and more of this system, I think we're going to become really difficult to beat. I think that we might not be the prettiest to watch at all times, but if given space, like we were given space against Manchester United, I think that Emery is willing to attack. I think he is willing to push forward even if we are up by a goal. Look at the way we started the second half against United. We were 2-1 up, but we went for the killer goal. We didn't sit back because United allowed some space. If we are against a top team away from home, we are probably going to pick up more points than we ever did under Stevie G or previous managers because Emery's got that know-how. He's got that willingness to dig in. He's got that willingness to try and nick it on the attack. It might not always be to Villa fans' liking, but I really feel like we have got the manager who is going to get us on the up. We are 12th place in the table going into the Christmas break, and top 10 all of a sudden is becoming a potential reality again. I will take that. I thought we were in for a very, very bleak winter. I thought that we were going to be looking at maybe a relegation battle. I would like to think we are getting away from that now. This was a new kind of video for me. I've never done a tactical analysis like this, so I'm sorry for getting it out a little bit later. Please let me know if you enjoy it like this or you prefer the more casual kind of video, because this is way more work, but I want to add some value. I want you to enjoy watching these videos and offer something a little bit different. If you did get this far, please do hit the sub button, and I will see you again for an Aston Villa video in a few weeks when we will do a Liverpool preview and hopefully we'll be winning 3 games in a row.